Have there been any decisions that you have made more because you felt like it was what you were supposed to do and less about what you really wanted to do? Peer pressure can be powerful. On today's first episode of Life's Next Lesson Plan podcast, Rachel Rauch, that's me, high school teacher for 3 decades, shares her vision for this podcast along with a lesson on creating your ideal life based on the teachings of American Transcendentalists. And yes, class, the homework is optional. Hello, and welcome to my first episode of my Life's Next Lesson Plan podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on this new endeavor. I'll start by introducing myself for anyone listening who doesn't know me. I'm Rachel. I'm a 51-year-old mom in Wisconsin. I have a 17-and-a-half-year-old daughter and a dog and a cat, and I love animals. I decided this year I am going to end my 3 decades-long career as an English teacher and actually explore new passions instead of just talking or dreaming about them. Outside of being a teacher and a mom, my interests are career next steps, learning and education, health and wellness, despite my love for pizza and non-alcoholic Guinness, travel and lifestyle, and storytelling. One thing I hear over and over from retired educators is the loss of identity is difficult after leaving teaching, especially for those of us who've been teachers for our entire adult lives. So this podcast is a way for me to explore a new adventure, but staying rooted in my education background by putting some of what I taught as a journalism teacher to the test and still sharing some of my knowledge that I used to share in the classroom for 30 years. At the same time, my goal is to connect with others looking to take their next steps in life, whether that be personal or career related. To bridge my transition out of education, you'll find that this podcast follows a similar structure to what I did in the classroom. Twice a month, I'll have solo episodes where I share a lesson and we put it into action. And the other 2 weeks of the month, I will have a guest with me doing the same. These might involve other former educators or actually former students who have gone on to create their dream lives. Each podcast will have a brief lecture or lesson, followed by an activity to engage you, and some optional homework. This aspect will remind me of my school days where, let's face it, some students thought homework was optional. It is my hope that by engaging in each lesson and completing the homework, you'll learn something new, but also uncover ideas for your life's next lesson plan, however you want to look at that. This podcast is not just for educators or midlifers, though. The ideas can apply to any stage of life for anyone searching to feel more fulfilled. With that said, let's dig into today's lesson. Likely half of my career I spent teaching American literature, and besides teaching The Great Gatsby, my favorite unit was probably the Transcendentalists, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. In a nutshell, these writers believed that life should be lived in harmony with nature and the inner self. They emphasized the importance of individuality, intuition, and the spiritual connection between humans and the universe. I'm going to focus on 4 key beliefs they shared that always resonated with me and made me want to adapt these views more intentionally into my own life. I always felt like my love for Jimmy Buffett, R.I.P. Jimmy, was linked to a transcendental way of thinking, but I digress. The first tenet that transcendentalists believed in was individualism. Thoreau and Emerson specifically believed that each person has a unique and valuable perspective on the world. They encouraged individuals to trust their own instincts and intuition rather than conforming to societal norms. Think about that for a moment. Have there been any decisions you have made more because you felt like it was what you were supposed to do and less about what you really wanted to do? Peer pressure is powerful. The second tenet in Transcendentalism is nature. Transcendentalists saw nature as a source of inspiration, beauty, and spiritual enlightenment. They believe that spending time in nature could help individuals connect with a higher power and discover their true selves. Speaking for myself, I know I always feel better after a dog walk or time on the water in my orange whip. Yes, I have a name for my kayak. You'll probably hear a lot about it. I haven't stripped myself of life's non-essentials and lived in a tiny cabin along Waldo Pond like Thoreau, but I am proud of my bravery to go tent camping with my very transcendental significant other last summer. Baby steps, guys. The third tenet is self-reliance. Thoreau and Emerson emphasize the importance of self-reliance and independence. They believe that individuals should be able to take care of themselves and make their own decisions without relying on others. How does that resonate with you? Are you confident making a decision without outside approval? Or to do what Emerson suggests and not go where the path may lead, but to go instead where there is no path and leave a trail? Trailblazing is certainly vulnerable, but potentially life-altering. And the last tenet we'll talk about today is simplicity. Transcendentalists advocated for a simple and minimalist lifestyle, free from material possessions and distractions. They believe that a simpler life would allow individuals to focus on what is truly important. Yeah, this one I have come to appreciate after moving 4 times in the last 3 years. Possessions do not make us happy. There is so much to be said for this one. My best memories have come from times when I had the least. Spending time in my grandma and grandpa's home with 1 bathroom were the happiest times in my life. And by the way, they had 10 children and countless grandchildren who I know would agree with me. Overall, Thoreau and Emerson believed that life should be lived with purpose, meaning, and a deep connection to nature and the inner self. Their ideas continue to inspire people today and have had a lasting impact on American culture and philosophy. 100% of this philosophy is a big part of why I made my decision to leave teaching and shift the trajectory of my life. So let's shift out of our lesson now to our personal goals, or my personal next lesson plan in life. After this school year, I will soon be an empty nester while also leaving the only full-time career I have ever known. I thought about what this time in my life would look like a lot. And every time I really just wanted to have time to slow down, to follow my heart, and not the pressures of society, and to appreciate the small things in life. Well, and go to the bathroom when I want. Let's stop for a moment. If I were still in the classroom, this is where I would have my students take out a notebook and do what we call in education a quick write. You can write out your response, or if you'd prefer to just close your eyes, unless you're driving, of course, and just visualize your answer. What 3 aspects are most important to you in life? You could look at this maybe as your 3 top values. What do you wish you had more time for? Or if money were not a factor, how would you build your dream life? Feel free to pause this audio now to write or to think about this. Next, we're going to move on to turning today's lesson into your optional homework. Again, this is something you could visualize in your head, or because I've always wanted to do this, but no one ever held me to it, I'm actually going to create my first vision board. This could start as simply as a list of visuals and quotes that are meaningful for you, or it could turn into a colorful collage created by cutting out photos and quotes from magazines. After many years as a yearbook teacher for me, I'm going to opt for creating a digital vision board using Canva. To show that I've completed my homework, I'll post my vision board on Instagram and Facebook, and I invite you to share your goals for your dream life. If there were no parameters, what would your dream life look like? Let's manifest our next stage together. Thank you so much for joining me in some soul searching and learning about the American Transcendentalists today. Next week, I'm going to have my first guest who will be here to share his next lesson plan and teach you using his multiple decades spent in education. Many of you will know him, and I'm excited to have him on. If you'd like to subscribe to our email list for special offers, send us your email at nextlessonplan@gmail.com. This month, I'm giving away an Amazon gift card to a lucky winner on our email list. And as a special thank you for listening, I've put a link in the show notes to editable slides on teaching the Transcendentalists and creating a Transcendental vision board with your students. Teachers, feel free to adapt the slides for a unit in your own classroom. You can also share with someone you think might find these slides useful. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Life's Next Lesson Plan for all the behind-the-scenes content and updates. We can't wait to hear all about your ideal vision for your life.